Hello everyone, I'm Forrest McFreelava, and this is Mesoamerican Speedplay number 2, which we're probably just going to be calling something more like Mayan Speedplay number 2. We started off having to just speed through because, well, we ended up in a regency, and that's less than spectacular. We also had truces with a bunch of people to begin with, and yeah, that's not exactly great. It's going to slow us down quite a bit. We do have a significant army, but that doesn't really matter very much since we can't really do anything with it, so we're probably just going to bring it down to more reasonable peacetime levels, which brings people to war with us. That's great news, though, because we couldn't declare the wars ourselves. We're just going to have to rebuild that army, at least what we can, including with a significant amount of mercenaries, and it doesn't look like we're actually going to be able to get out of there, so we're going to fight and probably lose that battle out loud. You'll notice I tried to reinforce, realized that was a terrible idea, and pulled those troops back, which was probably for the best. I'm going to try to stop suiciding my armies into things nearly so much in this one, and luckily our allies all joined because it was a defensive war. And yeah, so we'll just say our plan to look really weak so that people declared war on us worked like a charm, and we were declared war on very easily. So hopefully the alliance bloc will come and help us. We go ahead and just start sieging out their territories. Only the southern one actually has a fort, so the rest will fall within a month. However, there are quite a few places at war with us, really just these two, although they do have armies all up in our ally in the very far end, and they are now coming back over to us. So we're not quite out of the woods yet, and we can't actually go reinforce our allied armies because of some forts that we do not control, which is kind of odd that they were able to. But no matter, I guess we'll just not support them. We go over here and hopefully win this battle, which we managed to successfully do, chase down this other army, and luckily meet success against them as well. So now that we've managed to get past our initial defeat, we are really, really doing well. We bring in even more forces. Unfortunately, that means that we don't actually get the siege, and our ally ends up getting the siege of their capital and probably doesn't even want it and won't give it to us, so we just don't get to fully annex them, which is just spectacular. At any rate, though, no reason to be upset. They did end up saving us after all, and that's kind of the price you have to pay. We do go ahead and just speed through these sieges, just as is kind of our way. And there we go, we're back. The sieges are, unfortunately, we're called to arms. We are going to accept it. They accepted our call to arms. Hopefully we'll be able to piece that through without too much trouble. It is just a 2-province minor after all. We also convert the last of the provinces that is not our Mayan religion. Keep our estates more or less in line. Raise our stability 1 to get it up to 3 with the event. And now we're back to battling armies, which will hopefully go very well, and once we've won that, we can just go ahead, destroy it, or maybe not, chase it down. Alright, there, finally we've destroyed it. Split those forces up, and now after a month we will win the war and see what we can get, and then rush our kind of beleaguered at this point forces up and support our ally in their war. So we'll go ahead and just do that. Merge all these forces together, take our provinces back, and then roll right on up to the aid of our ally. And unfortunately that does not actually work very well for us. So we're going to go ahead and just make peace really quickly. We do kind of need the money. We also now can begin to core all the provinces that we need. We're over 20 cities now, so once these are done coring, we're out of war and we don't have rebellions. We will be able to reform one of the 5 aspects of our religion, which means all this fun that we've had just launching ourselves against other native areas, we're going to have to do that again. We tried to get our ally to attach their army to ours, but they are having absolutely none of that. We go ahead and just attack that 1 stack. Now they're sieging that province. That'll just come to them in a month. They aren't even joining us. We go ahead and attach to their army, which changes their mind. At this point, however, we have now lost one of the sieges for one of the areas we just took, which means it's going to just slow down our coring progress. We're going to have to wait quite some time before we can actually reform our religion. And even better, they're charging over to our capital, so we get to just kind of deal with that while our allies sit around and do not very much. Which is moderately frustrating, you could say. We go ahead and speed through these sieges and counter sieges. as our country and theirs are both being sieged. We managed to get their capital first, and at this point I'm really not having any of my allies' stuff as we're sieging back that city instead of taking our capital, and it's just a lot. We go ahead and harsh treat some rebels since we really don't have an army large enough for it, and you'll notice that we did just peace out. Because honestly, we were able to get out with a white peace despite our relatively weak position, and our ally, as great as they were, I really don't feel like we owed them anything after that kind of poor tactical performance. Or I guess poor strategic performance. We do raise a bit more of an army because we're about to have a rebellion. There we go, we've just had that rebellion. We're going to rush over, get even more troops. We're not going to repeat last episode's thing. Luckily, we're declared war on, but luckily we just built up our army to deal with those rebels, which is just amazingly lucky. Our northern ally just completely didn't agree to fight with us because admittedly they were dying in that war that we abandoned them in. So that could be an episode of short-sightedness. Unfortunately, the rebels did kind of just march into the province we were marching towards to help our allies. Our allies lost their battle, we lost our battle, and there's another rebellion which killed another rebel army, or another allied army, which, all told, is kind of unfortunate. Definitely does not bode well for us in the long term. We do still have a relatively significant force, though, so we can just kind of unsiege a couple of our provinces and hide behind the rebel armies as they siege out our allies. We do just kind of get even further back because that could have almost been a disaster. And we do notice that one of the rebel armies is trying to just teleport itself over to Guatemala, of all places. Luckily, we can just park an army there in the hills. They do actually teleport over there, and all of a sudden we get all those bonuses of being on a hill. So that was really great, honestly, just fantastic news. We go ahead and bring our army slightly forward, kind of back as well, because I don't actually really trust the world not to just murder us if we move forward too much. And we do end up just splitting our army a bit. You'll notice allied armies off in the distance are all just dead now, and we are being sieged out in one of our major forts. We're lucky to even have the major fort, to be honest, although it is a bit of a bummer now that it is just being sieged. I see what we could offer them. Unfortunately, they seem like they would want quite a lot, and I'm not really feeling giving them quite a lot. So what we're going to do is probably just sit here for a bit. We sped things up for a moment. We do siege out that city, which is great. And now we're probably going to just start sieging them out, just counter-sieging them as they siege us, which this province will only take a month, and then we'll go to their capital and just kind of hope for the best there. I don't actually believe their army is going to come attack ours, as we've been having pretty decent luck with that. However, the rebels attack our allies, we rush in, reinforce just in time, and end the rebellion in every practical sense. Now we'll just have to unsiege the province, probably go back and take that Aztec province again, and then go right on back to their capital. Alternatively, we could maybe sue for peace and just kind of sell out our ally, since they do have their capital under foreign control, and I don't really trust them to stay in the war to the end anyway. Either way, though, that would be kind of a bit rude after they came to our aid, although we are also sort of in the task of selling out our allies. That army does appear to be coming to attack us, though, so we're going to make peace with that country. There's a rebellion, luckily, so we can't actually support them. Our ally tries to, though, but that might be a suicide for their army. No, they managed to win. Alright, great. With that all said and done, we are still kind of just going to sell them out because their war enthusiasm is low, and I don't want to just fight the Aztec alliance on my own. So, a bit rude of us, yes, definitely. Either way, though, I managed to secure our gains. We are now the entire eastern half of the known world. We go ahead and just speed up the coring process. And, alright, with the coring process all achieved, we're going to go ahead and reform our religion. That frees up quite a bit of the peoples we had once conquered, which is terribly sad. However, we now have 10% improved infantry combat fighting ability, and infantry's all we can build. So we just have 10% better armies, which will hopefully help us to reconquer all of these peoples. We could have also gotten something like coring cost reduction. However, since most of these areas are territories, the coring cost is already very, very low. You'll also notice that I haven't really been using any of my monarch points. Down over here, you'll notice that they are fighting wars, just flower wars to build themselves little empires, which is deeply unfortunate. That's kind of really the big downside of losing half your empire every few years, is they build their own empires, and we're going to end up having to fight their new empire. So I do think that picking the 10% infantry combat fighting ability was probably the best choice for first reform. At any rate, though, we do watch as they kind of just fight one another. It looks as though that war is going to end pretty quickly, and it does, with the annexation of one of the one province miners by another. So it's not actually that significant. What will be more significant is when our new ally, by the way, we did ally them, vassalizes one of the states that we had to let go, who was actually their colonial overlord before. At any rate, though, we can now get back in the fight as our truces have ended, and we're just going to attack this state since it's diplomatically isolated. And all we have to do is just rush on in, siege them out, and just rebuild that portion of our empire. We also do go ahead and put our ruling family just in charge of armies. That might be a little bit worrying. We also go ahead and keep our estates as loyal as we can. I don't really feel like we're going to have a problem with our estates and their loyalty levels, since they don't really have very much influence compared to their loyalty. We also speed through the siege, as is becoming a pretty well-known tradition among us. And with all that said and done, we can go ahead and just fully annex them. We also did manage to completely overthrow their religion and replace it with our own, which is kind of nice. All that said and done, we do speed up just a little bit through a period where we're not doing all that much. We do build up a bit more of an army, since we are probably going to end up at war with the Aztecs in the near-ish future, since they are allied to the two province minor, just kind of sitting inside our lands. We also have 17 cities, which means we're going to need to take, potentially, that one Aztec city without a fort, those 2 cities from that 2 province minor to our side, and once those 3 provinces are ours, we can reform our religion once more. We do go ahead and declare that war and charge in. We split off a group of non-mercenaries to siege the other province. That way they'll save manpower and not die in all the battles. Speaking of dying in all the battles, our allies appear to be charging into some battles. We rush up to support them, and we manage to just really, really overdo it, which is the best way to fight battles, honestly. We then go ahead, set up a whole bunch of sieges. We can't actually get to their westernmost province just yet, and we try to pull our other forces away from the front to get large armies at the front that we can actually conceivably reinforce. Alright, that all said and done, we're probably going to be turning to another era of sieges. Our allies charges their army in on the west, and just kind of gets murdered, which is more than a little unfortunate. At any rate, we speed through the siege very quickly. We managed to get that achieved without too many events occurring. The Aztecs are the overlords of the country to their west, and this battle is going very well, which is great news, which means we can probably split the Aztecs from their vassal. We charge in even further. Thankfully, we are supported. We win that battle, and now it's just more sieging. We go ahead and look at the peace deal. We do offer our southern ally, we have to offer them basically any amount of land at all, otherwise they will not trust us ever again. And so we're going to just kind of get lands, see if we can't offer them anything. And, okay, so sadly, it doesn't look as though we can actually offer them anything because they don't want anything, which means this alliance is going to last all of one war. It's possible that they do want Mexico City from the Aztecs. However, if we give that to them, then they're just going to become a problem, because they already vassalized Mixtec, the country just to their east, and yeah, if we give them Mexico, then they'll just start building up their own empire. We're going to lose a lot of our territories when we reform our religion again, so we want to vassalize the Aztecs. I'm not sure if that will hold all the way through. Also, we're going to do a little bit of politicking right now. Get our far western ally, Colima, into the war, and we're just going to give them as many of the Tarascan provinces as we can. The idea for this being, since our southern empire building ally is going to hate us anyway, we may as well empire build for our western ally to counteract the growing strength down south. Hopefully that is going to work. It's kind of a long shot, and we are basically just going to break our alliance with them since we're over diplomatic relations limit at the moment. At any rate, thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. When we get back tomorrow, we're probably going to just reform our religion and see where we go. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.